Good afternoon, everybody. This is Billy McDiarmid from Candidate.ID. Thank you so much for joining today's webinar. If you give us a minute, we're just trying to get our video restarted. Give me a moment. This is what happens when I decide to start playing about with technical solutions just before we go live on air. But we now seem to be enabled on video. I'm just going to get Tom on video as well. Thanks very much for dialing in. We've got a lot of attendees with us today, Tom. I'll start off by introducing Tom. Tom Burton, who is the Marketing and Communications Manager with Specsavers. Tom, would you like to give us a bit of a more detailed introduction as to who you are before we get cracking on some detail around today's topic?
Definitely. Right. So I am Tom and I look after the communications and marketing team at Specsavers Recruitment Services. I joined Specsavers 4 years ago now, in what was at the time our first marketing role in the business. So I think the business had identified a need to increase its marketing presence to facilitate further growth and stay ahead of the competition. So that was a new role at the time. We've actually grown the team now. We've got a team of 4 here at Specsavers. I'd say originally when I first joined, we were more of a recruitment, PR and communications team. But as we've become more sophisticated as a business, we've developed into a more traditional recruitment marketing team. And done lots of work with Candidate.ID over the last 2 years.
Brilliant. And to introduce who I am, I always try and start off with our guests because they're the more important people. Not that the Candidate.ID team aren't important, but I'm the Customer Success Director for those who don't know me here at Candidate.ID. I lead our success team. We work closely with clients like Specsavers to make sure that they get the most out of our software. And I'm delighted to have worked with Tom for the past 2 years on the ongoing work and the ongoing success of not only how they use Candidate.ID actually, but also how they've transformed, as Tom says, from a traditional communications and PR team into one of the most effective recruitment marketing operations that I've had the pleasure of working with. And that's what we're going to focus on today's session, guys. We are recording this today, so it will come out to you afterwards for your viewing pleasure and your additional consumption. But please do ask questions as we're going along. There is a question button here on Zoom. This is the first time we've used Zoom for a webinar at Candidate.ID, by the way, so your feedback on the platform is really appreciated. If it works for you, brilliant. If you think it's not great for you, then just let me know. Just to kick off with, Tom, what we're going to talk more about today is we're going to talk about not only how you've used recruitment marketing, but also how you've used the Specsavers brand to recruit. Because it's a brand, I don't think there'll be anyone in the UK who probably doesn't know who Specsavers are. There's probably very few people across Europe who don't know who Specsavers are. But you know, from a consumer perspective, that's a massive benefit that everyone knows who you are. But from an employment perspective, particularly within optometry and within the optometry retail specialists, it can be a bit of a challenge. So we're going to talk about how you guys have got through that and how you've managed to continuously improve your recruitment performance over time. But before we go into the detail, do you want to tell me a little bit about your team and how it's structured and how it ties into the overall Specsavers function?
Certainly. So in a nutshell, as the in-house recruitment team for Specsavers, we manage recruitment for our 800 plus stores across the UK and Ireland. However, due to the Specsavers business model, I'd say we're not a traditional in-house team. To give a bit of context into how Specsavers operates, we've got a joint venture partnership model at Specsavers. This means that all stores are part owned by Specsavers, and the remaining shares are owned usually by 2 business directors, one retail and one optical. That's the concept of that really is to give like a balance of the clinical and retail leadership in each business. The model is at the core of our continual growth, because as a Specsavers director, you don't just, a successful business is success for you. So the better you do, the better your business does, the better your store does, the better you do personally as well. So it's a business built on an entrepreneurial spirit. The concept behind that is that you're, as a business owner, you're allowed to carry on with what you do best. Specsavers look after marketing, IT, accountancy, everything in the background of that, and that's really where we come in as a recruitment team. It gives us a really interesting challenge as an in-house recruitment team, because each Specsavers store has its own business owner. So effectively, you make your own hiring decisions. So whilst we provide them a large portion of their candidates, they can use whoever they want. So they can use internal team or an agency. And optics is such a candidate-led market. It means we really do compete. Even as an in-house team, we compete quite strongly against agencies and external competitors. So it kind of gives us a balance of, we've got the competitive edge of an agency and some of the operational aspects of an agency, but at the core is our customer care. And our people first. So we kind of operate as a bit of a best of both worlds. Recruitment wise, we cover all optical, audiology and retail positions in our stores. So everything from apprenticeships to optical assistants, all the way up to contact lens opticians, audiologists and optometrists. In total here, we've got a team of about 40, mostly recruiters working across different sections of permanent or source and self-employed cover for our stores. I think it's probably good to give a bit of context to our growth as well. Even when I joined the business 4 years ago, there was a team of around 25 here, and we delivered about 1,500 hires a year. We're now a team of 40, and in the last 12 months, we've recruited over 3,000 people into our stores. So that gives a bit of a context to the size of the operation here.
Absolutely, and I think it's kind of hyper. For me, one of the big differences between your team and a traditional in-house team, the partnership joint venture model within Specsavers that applies to everyone. Like you say, that independence that the store directors have actually got. You know, their store is completely under their control, and if you guys aren't doing the business, they will go external. And actually, what really surprised me when I first started working in this market with you was actually how competitive the optometry recruitment market is, and actually how low the fees are within that. So actually, not, you know, you're competing, you're working in a highly competitive market, but also in a highly competitive market where your competition are you know, doing permanent fees at what we were talking the other day about at sometimes 7%. So you're working with people who, you know, are claiming to be able to do the same level of service, but also at rates which are quite often you know, brutal from a permanent recruitment perspective, particularly when, as the slide says here, you know, a recent Indeed study has said that optometrists are actually the hardest to fill jobs in the UK. So there's so many external factors there in terms of the level of competition and the scarcity of the people that you're trying to recruit.
Yeah, definitely. That Indeed study was really interesting. When we first opened it, I was expecting it to be mainly tech roles, and it was, but surprisingly, obviously optometrists at number one. That shows just the scale of the challenge we have, and also why our 55% growth is such a success story, I suppose.
Absolutely. Brilliant. So I kind of went on a little bit there onto a slide that I didn't mean to about campaign results. I don't want to talk about results just yet because we've still got so much of the story to tell. Let's talk about the way before Candidate.ID and before the other recruitment tools, because as I said, this is about your entire journey as opposed to just what you do specifically with Candidate.ID. But tell me about the typical way that the SRS, the Specsavers recruitment services team worked. How did you attract, source, and convert candidates, and what at that time did work well? But what, in your view, kind of drove the change from being that traditional PR and communications function through into a proper recruitment marketing function?
I'd say traditionally we've our core means of sourcing are quite traditional. So access to job boards, scraping job boards, your big name job boards, and also quite niche ones as well. Healthcare ones, LinkedIn Recruiter, job advertising. We've got quite a big database. We've got over 20,000 people on our database here at Specsavers, so lots of database marketing. So quite traditional stuff, but I think it's probably worth noting that in the last 12 months, over 70% of our hires are from what we call proactive sourcing and headhunting. So less than 30% of our hires are through applications for our career site. And I think as you were talking about the journey and what triggered us to really turn into more of a traditional marketing recruitment team is probably is the fact that that trend continues every year. Less and less people apply for jobs. More and more people need to be headhunted.
Okay.
And when you look at the optics market, it's super passive. So at any time, I'd say you've got 10% of candidates that are really, really looking for jobs, and the rest of the people are sitting in quite a passive place. And what we realized is that we were quite job led with our marketing. So we were marketing jobs at people constantly. And if you've got a passive candidate who's not looking for a job, then marketing jobs them doesn't work.
Particularly in your market, right, where there's only around 13,000, 14,000 optometrists within the UK. So that's before we even look at Europe and any other regions out there. So you're already high. Specsavers have already hired. I think the figure was, and it might be a little slightly out of date, around about 35% of the available optometrists in the market. Already. So you're already going from a scenario where there's very few optometrists to even fewer, because you already hire a majority of them. But also the fact that you are regarded, Specsavers are regarded positively in some sectors, but perhaps less positively by some other parts of the sector as well. And that's natural when there's a big, a massive big player within the market. So even if you are trying to generate proactive applications, you're trying to get out into the market, it seems like you're faced with a bit of an uphill struggle to begin with. Is that right, or am I being particularly negative when it comes to challenges there?
Yeah, no. I think you're right, definitely. I think, like a lot of big businesses, I think we've probably at times, looking back 5-10 years ago, we were quite reliant on the scale of our brand. And there was probably a time before my time here where you could probably just sit back and you would just get those applications coming through. But the direction of the market now is it's not about how big you are and who you are. It's, do I get Netflix? It's the small things, and is this a brand that is ethically sound? Is it a brand that I want to be proud to work for? So I think the reliance on the scale of our brand, it was diminished. So it was for us to go out and start building a true employer brand, not just rely on the scale of our consumer brand.
Yeah. And I think particularly, optometry to me, in my perception, as I've worn glasses since I was 15. It's a bit of an interesting industry, because it is commercially driven. Optometry, I don't think there's anywhere in the world, certainly that I'm aware of, where it's not treated as a commercial function, really, as opposed to it being 100% healthcare. It's a privatized healthcare function. So, there's the necessity to be highly commercial in terms of who you're recruiting, why you're recruiting them, and the profitability aspect. And sometimes, actually, I think that's kind of forgotten. Certainly, and I won't name any names, but in the market, there's a very much a focus with optometry recruitment on, how much money you can earn, as opposed to actually, what is the real difference that a good optometry function makes. I'm going to share some examples here. I'm just going to try and share a video, right? Because we've worked together recently on a domiciliary care campaign, haven't we? That was particularly effective. Just while I'm trying to load up this video, do you want to tell the guys a little bit about domiciliary care and what that actually is? Because some people, if they've not used domiciliary care before, they might not know what it actually is.
Yeah, of course. So domiciliary in a nutshell is providing eye care for people that are housebound. So these are generally elderly people that can't make it into stores. And it's probably all optometrists make a huge impact on people's lives, but there's a real feeling with domiciliary, which is that you really do change people's lives every time you go into their home. And it's an area that's quite misunderstood in the market as well. And it's an area where where it's all about, there's some quite challenging perceptions. If you think you go to university, you study to be an optometrist, and you're kind of, the most common route is to go straight into a store. So to not take that route and actually go into a role where you spend the majority of the time in care homes, in people's actual homes, delivering tests on the road, has some challenging perceptions. So I think our goal here wasn't to market. We had a real challenge with growing our domiciliary recruitment, and what we were doing before was marketing jobs. And if someone doesn't understand something, marketing the job doesn't work. So we sat back really, and we realized it's like trying to sell a product to someone and they don't know what it is. So it's just not going to happen. So rather than market jobs and talk about the opportunities in domiciliary, we went back to square one and actually did something quite simple, which was follow 2 domiciliary optometrists around for the day, and just capture their day as like a day in the lifestyle video. So it's real people, real stories. And I think the goal here was it's a hearts and minds project. So it's to show people exactly what it's like to work in domiciliary, and really evoke that emotion of the feeling you give your customers when you work with them. So yeah, we launched quite a big campaign around it. It was centered around a 20-minute documentary style video, which we then broke down into 6 micro videos, more social media friendly clips. And yeah, Billy will show you the video.
Okay, well, let's see if the technology works. There we go. I'm not going to let that go any further. I'll send out the link, guys, as part of the follow-up. But even if I skip on a little bit just to show you, some of the imagery, some of the pictures, that this is, about what happens, in the home. This is about real life. This is about the impact. This is about people who can't actually get out, out of their home and get the care that they receive. And it's a really, really powerful example of actually the difference it can make. Sorry guys, I've just realised there's no sound from the video. I'm really, really sorry about that, but I'll get the link sent out so that you can actually all pick up on the sound and really get an understanding of that. Thanks for letting me know about that. But Tom, what for you, what impact did you see in terms of not only the end result? Now, the end result was you hired more than double the amount of domiciliary optometrists in 2018 than you actually did in 2017. But were there more quantitative results from that in terms of the feedback that you were getting from the market?
Yeah, an incredible uplift in purely just the amount of contact and the amount of conversation we had around domiciliary. So prior to that video, it was a recruiter going to an optometrist and trying to persuade them to be a domiciliary optometrist. Following the video, we actually had people contact us. There was a real uplift in taster days. So lots of people get in touch who wanted to try it out for a day. So we launched a scheme where you could be a domiciliary optometrist just for the day, go out alongside a current optometrist and see what it's like for the day. We had well over quadruple the amount of people we had engaged with that the year before. So I think it wasn't only the fact that the marketing externally, but it was the resource we had internally. But when we're having those conversations with people, we were able to share it with them as a link. They could learn more from the video. So you'll notice the video has quite a lack of branding. So it was all about, rather than trying to position Specsavers, it was about trying to promote domiciliary optometry in general. So if I look at the campaign as a whole, we over doubled our hires, and I didn't talk about jobs once. So not once in the campaign did we talk about a single vacancy or the scale of the package or what salary you'll get. We didn't talk about anything specific once, but we managed to double our hires. So I think that's a fine example of what you can achieve talking about a topic rather than just going job led all the time. And
that goes back really nicely to about brand focus, about how you want to change perceptions, rather than build them. As you say, rather than marketing jobs, you talk about what actually happens, with someone who's actually ultimately doing the job, the impact that the real people have got and the real customers have got in the market. But also about you've mentioned to me before, this is about positioning Specsavers as industry leaders and clinical specialists, and this isn't about anything else. This is all about pushing, going, we are the best at domiciliary care. This is the impact that we've got, and if you do come and work with us in domiciliary care, then you're going to be working with the leaders within this field, because again, it's going back to it's not all about the money. And you're quite honest about Specsavers in terms of being an employer. You don't always pay, in terms of what the competition are offering. You're not always able to market that. So match that. So it's about what else can you give people to that's going to entice them. And actually, I'm not sure whether you did say this or not, but Stephen, who's on the call, Stephen, thanks for joining us. He sent a question. Hello, did you mention that Specsavers offers employees Netflix as one of your benefits? I didn't quite pick up on that comment. So do you offer Netflix as one of your benefits?
We do on occasion. So that's one of the great things about the joint venture model is that stores are able to offer what they want on an individual basis. So we have kind of a core development package and benefits package that you get with Specsavers, but on top of that, each individual store is entitled to offer what they want. So we certainly have candidates that get Netflix without a doubt. Yeah.
Fantastic. I'll need to find the stores that do that, and then maybe I then move away from paying for my family's Netflix, which seems to be my big challenge at the moment. One thing, just to finish off on that section, just about the domiciliary care, what I love about it is it's about social status. Actually, that's a big thing, and I think we've all had. I've certainly had family members who have been at latter stages of their life and have received domiciliary care from Specsavers, and the impact that it makes, even a marginal improvement in terms of their care at the end, always made me think better of the Specsavers brand, because of the quality of the individuals and the quality of people coming in. So again, this is just about brand, guys. We're not, we talk about a lot of this at Candidate.ID. We talk about your business, talk about the product and the services, give insight into that, as opposed to specifically talking about vacancies. This is proof that absolutely works. So make sure that you take some time out. I'll send the links over the follow-up email. Make sure you take some time out, though, to take a look at it and understand that campaign. In addition, though, I'll send some other links to some of the other work that they do, that Specsavers do in that area as well. So if we move away from domiciliary for a second, let's talk about overall your way of working now as a modern advanced recruitment marketing team versus how you worked in the past, Tom. How do you operate now as a function with your team? And as we say, you've got a small team you've got 4 at the moment, haven't you? So you've got yourself, you've got Shan, Polly, and have you just recruited someone else? I think you were talking about that.
Recruiting very soon, yeah. We're hiring at the minute, so.
Yeah, brilliant. So what's your structure and how do you work now compared to in the past?
So I think probably the key change over the last 12 months is probably our relationship with the marketing team here and the recruitment team. So I think you probably find in a lot of businesses, you tend to find the marketing team work in one area and the recruitment team work in another. In the last 12 months, we've moved into a position where we work together. So the recruitment team have a far bigger investment in our marketing campaigns, and this is because they now understand the end result. So that relationship developing over the last 12 months has had a real impact. And we often find some of our best recruiters tend to be the recruiters that understand the marketing picture as well. So it's been a real upskill for them as well, getting close to the marketing, and for us getting close to the recruitment. So that's been a real change over the last 12 months. I think probably the biggest change is we've moved to a model where we nurture candidates. So our core sourcing methods and direct activity still exist. So the recruiters still pick up the mail shots, the job adverts, the direct stuff. But as a marketing team now, we're all about nurturing candidates. And I think probably the best example of that is each year at Specsavers we get a list of candidates. I won't say which ones they are for competitors, but they're a list of around 250 candidates we get each year. They're at a certain stage of their optical career. If I look back 2 years ago, that list was sent straight out to the recruiters, and it was effectively a cold call list. So you just get on the phones, and they'd call, answer phone. If they're lucky, someone comes back, then they've got to sell the brand, sell the opportunities, and try and get them a job. Looking back to 2017, we placed 10 people off that list of 250 people. Last year, as a marketing team, we took that list before it went to the recruiters. And what we did was we took that list and we started nurturing them and just talking to them about Specsavers as a brand, the careers you can get in optometry, where you're kind of talking about stories of real people, where people have gone in their career. And we did all of this process and all this nurturing before the list even went to the recruiters. As we got to the end of that process, we started transferring those leads over to the recruiters. You find at that point then each recruiter has gone from working on a list of 50 cold calls to now they're only got a list of 8, but these are 8 people that are actually showing engagement in the brand. They actually want to speak to Specsavers. And last year we trebled our hires off that list, so we hired 35 people off the same list, and in doing that the recruitment team did considerably less work. Our conversion was way quicker because they already had a picture of the brand and what we can offer before they even picked up the phone. So the role of the marketing team there was much more significant than it was 12 months ago, and the results were much better with far less ownership on the recruiters. It made their lives easier as well.
And that's a big thing. I mean, we've looked at some stats, and we've spoken about them before for you and your team. You know, there's some cases where, you know, you're able to get from a situation where you've got a list of 1,000 candidates, prospective candidates, you know, where traditionally the team may have attempted to chip away at 1,000 and contact as many of those 1,000 as you possibly can. But by using your you know, because you're a progressive recruitment marketing function and the types of activity that you're doing, whether it's using Candidate.ID or using your other tools, means that you're able to quickly get to a point where you know the 30 candidates out of that 1,000 who are highly engaged, you know, who are actually, so instead of your recruiters wasting time on the contact stage, attempting to contact 1,000 people, and you and I both know that they're never going to get to all 1,000 of those candidates within any reasonable period of time. Their focus is on the 30 or so people who are engaging and that's high quality conversations. That's people who know about the content. They know it so well that they're now, you know, so far down the funnel, they're really at the bottom stage. So they're ready for conversion. They're ready for a call from a recruiter, which adds value and starts to move them into the recruitment process, as opposed to starting at the very, very beginning at the top of funnel. It makes a massive difference. And where, you know, what additional, I'm always keen to find out, you know, we're helping you to save time, and your team is working really hard to save time, save the recruiters time. What other additional value add activities are the recruiters carrying out that are adding more value in other respects as well?
Well, I think quite simply, they've just got more time on their hands. So the role of the marketing team, developing those candidates and engaging them from the off and giving people warm leads, mean they've quite simply just got more time to talk to more candidates. So if you're a recruiter, what are you best at? You're best at talking to candidates. That's why you're in the role you're at. You find you spend a lot of your time sourcing people, trying to find people, and we try and support by taking that bit away and leave them to actually get the deals over the line to really have those conversations that are what they're trained to do and what they're best at.
One thing that we find that the free time, where it does come in handy, and this is certainly for me, for me personally as well, we, you know, as a sourcer, someone coming from a sourcing background, it means that when I've run nurture campaigns, I can then spend my time finding more people within the total addressable market to then push into the funnel. So rather than wasting time contacting people who aren't going to be interested, I spend time actually just trying to increase the number of people that I'm putting through the funnel in the first place, because then I know, and even if it's only 3 or 4% of people that are in the funnel that become highly active, if I can get an additional 500 people per week into the top of the funnel and then receiving content, then, as I said, even if it's 3 or 4% of that, that's an extra 20 people per week that I can then have warm conversations with. Emma's asked a question just there. She missed the introduction. No problem, Emma. Thanks for joining us. But our Tom's team, the recruitment marketers, and is there a separate recruitment team? Yes. So Tom's team is the recruitment marketing team, who then feed through feed leads through into the team of recruiters within the business, Emma. Tom, actually, we've not prepped this question actually, so I'll apologise if it catches you off guard slightly, but it is something we've spoken about before, probably more at the beginning of the journey, but it's still important. What we probably had at the beginning when we worked with you was probably a bit of a problem, a bit of a gap between the recruitment marketing team and the recruiters in terms of how leads were being moved through to the recruitment team and then how they were actually being actioned and followed up with. If you're in, for anyone who's on the call who's got a separate recruitment marketing function and a separate team of recruiters, what couple of bits of advice would you give to recruitment marketers and actually recruiters for making sure that the leads are followed up with and are actioned? Because ultimately that's the only way that success can be achieved.
Yeah, it certainly was one of my biggest challenges, and me coming from a marketing background, it was a real kind of challenge point for me, because you're passing on a hot lead, and if a recruiter is not on it straight away, it makes no sense. But then the more we dug into it, you realize that a lot of recruiters are used to working in a certain way. So they're used to coming in the morning, scraping the job boards, getting their leads through, and working that way. So we're presenting people with hot leads that are probably as strong as an application, and they're not jumping on it straight away. So I think for us, the journey was really about results. So you always find recruiters tend to work on results. So once we were over that initial first campaign and over the hurdle, and they started contacting these people, and seeing that they were getting a much better response rate. So people were picking up the phones, they're already warm to them. The conversations were a lot quicker, and also they started converting them a lot quicker because they were already engaged with the brand prior to that call. Quite quickly they started getting on board with it. So I think there's always that original hurdle to get over. But I think the other bit of advice I'd give is getting them involved in the campaign process. So not just sending them out, by the way, we're sending an email tonight, actually getting them in a room, showing them the campaign, even getting their input on some of the content, and getting their buy-in from the off. Then once they feel that they're part of that campaign, they're far more likely to engage with it, because again, recruiters work on results, and they also like to work on results that are their personal results. So feeling that they've influenced that campaign and it's part of their work leads to far better engagement, I think.
I love that collaboration part of it, and it's something we're actually working on in roadmap for a future version of the product, is how you can actually get your recruiters working with your recruitment marketers throughout the whole process of a campaign, from everything from building the email copy, building the landing page copy, the design, through to the actual structure of the campaign as well. That involvement at an early stage is really crucial. We encourage it with clients at an early stage. We want our clients to involve all the stakeholders. So if it's the recruitment function, we want to make sure that they get marketing involved. If there is a recruitment marketing function, we want them to get the recruiters involved. That ownership and that buy-in, but also the fact that actually everyone, in my view, everyone's got great ideas when it comes to this. Not everyone has got the perfect answer to running recruitment marketing, so you need that input and that feedback. Also, one thing that I've done in the past, and I know some of my clients do as well, is involve candidates. Actually get them involved. So, or people who have been through the journey, people who have been through the process, whether they've been successful or not, find out from them what worked, what didn't work, find out from the people who are actually consuming the content what works and what doesn't work, and also use the data that's being generated. We've quite a few people from the Specsavers Europe team on the call. Hi to Casper and the guys. What they do that I love is that each month they consume a report which in detail breaks down all the different candidates and all the different bits of activity that the candidate has carried out. So, what part of the careers pages have they visited? Have they visited specific jobs? Have they done specific things? So they're looking at real detail, what each individual candidate is doing. So it's important to have that analytics platform behind your recruitment marketing activity to help you measure not only success but measure what's leading to success. So now that takes us quite nicely on just to wrap up. We're going to take about another 5 minutes, guys, so remember, if you've got any further questions, please drop them in now, but if you think of questions afterwards, then just get in touch with Tom or I. I'm sure we'll be happy to answer them where we possibly can. Tom, there was, an uplift. There was an improvement, substantial improvement in recruitment in various areas last year. An increase, you recruited an additional 60 more optometrists. That was an uplift of 55%. What were the primary drivers behind that? What was the reason that worked very, very well? Is there, did you have to increase your recruitment headcount to do that? Did you manage to do it with the same headcount, for example?
Yeah, so we did. Yeah, so we had we recruited over 60 extra optometrists last year, which is a 55% growth for us, and we did that with no additional headcount at all. And not only that, actually, we had quite a lot of new talent join the business last year as well. That combined with the challenges in the optometrist market, delivering the same results as the year before would have been classed as a real success. So to deliver such growth was fantastic. I think I would, aside from the stuff we've already spoke about, which is the building the relationship between marketing and recruitment. I think one of the key things was a real visibility of who is engaged with our brand. Sounds really simple, but seeing what candidates are actually engaged with your brand and what content they are reading can be just as strong as an application. I think whilst our headcount didn't go up, the quantity of content we produced did go up. So in the last 12 months, my team of three produced over 600 posts across social media. So we produced a lot more content, and the real beauty of that in the last year. So previously we were producing similar content, but we were never able to see who was engaging with it beyond just that we had a great amount of views. Whereas with the use of Candidate.ID in the last year, we were able to really measure the actual impact of that and turn all that great work into actual campaign leads. And I think the automation is probably a key point there as well. So some of the work we did with the Candidate.ID system allowed us to automate a lot of the content we were producing. So to send out the quantity of stuff we were doing manually would have been impossible with the size of the team we have, but the system allows us to automate campaigns from the off, and schedule all of that content in, and then we just sit back and wait for the leads to come. I think additionally, I'd probably say moving to an employer brand position rather than a job-led recruitment marketing made a big difference. I often find there's almost this fear with recruiters, which is where they must put everything about the job in every piece of communication. So they must advertise that the job is in a specific town, on a specific street, near a specific shop, and it's like that isn't what makes people get jobs at all. So we stopped putting everything about the specific location of our role, and we started just marketing our brand and talking about Specsavers as a great place to work rather than just talking about Specsavers having great jobs.
Yeah.
So I think that's a real key point for us. I think ultimately, if you look at the year as a whole, we produced a higher quality of leads for our recruiters, which reduced our time to hire, reduced the conversion time, and ultimately gave them more time to spend working with candidates and doing what they do best.
And that's the golden rule. If you can that was the one thing when I recruited and when I was sourcing, I wanted to always spend more time on candidate development. I didn't want to spend time on on sending out LinkedIn messages or sending out emails or sending anything. I wanted to have a scalable solution, something that took care of that for me, so that I could then, once the conversions actually come through, I could actually spend time dealing with them. And we something that I firmly believe in, and the automation, you're right, the automation aspect is key, not only in terms of the scheduling. We can obviously dynamically schedule content to go out at the right time for the candidate. It's not just about it going out on a specific day and a specific time. It's about relativity. It's about going, okay, a candidate opened up an email 5 days ago, they should get an email now. Or if they didn't open the email, well, if they've not opened an email once, twice, or maybe 3 times, we automate the process of sending them a text message. So there's automation from the candidate's perspective and what they get, but there's also the automation from the recruiter perspective. So for Specsavers, for example, the Specsavers team get a notification every time an active candidate clicks on a job vacancy. And that automation comes through, that notification comes through by email. So it's about going, okay, what are the things that Tom's team do? What are the things that the recruitment team do? And what are the things that the candidates do? And how can we apply some automation there to save time at every point as well. One of my favourite stats, which I didn't know until you sent me it the other day, Tom, was your 2 million views across social media. Do you know that's a fantastic achievement across 600 bits of post, 600 bits of content. That's absolutely superb, and is absolutely fantastic result. So
yeah, well, I think a big part of that was the style of, which I haven't really touched on, is the style of content we were working on as well. So we did a lot more content that was around real people last year. So I think we found that people engage people, and also people believe people. You find a lot with brands and recruitment brands, they almost think because they say it's great, it means everyone's going to believe it's great. But yet when we go to buy a product, we want to read all the reviews. We want to hear from everyone how good it is. But then when we go to recruit, we expect people just to believe us straight away. So we moved away from the traditional corporate messaging of saying how good we are, and we just started using real people who've shown how good we are, and that also got a lot more engagement online and led to that increase in views.
Brilliant. Just to wrap up then, we've got a couple of questions. Susan Vincent, Susan, thanks for joining. Which ATS stroke CRM system do you use at Specsavers, Tom?
Good question. We've got quite a complicated, as a lot of businesses do. We use a lot of different systems. Our CRM system is RDB. So that's an Access software. It's run by Access, and it's called RDB ProNet. So we use that.
Fantastic. And we've got a question from Sabrina Geschville as well. Do you also do in-house events with the recruiting team and recruitment marketing team? If you do events, what kind of events do you do?
We attend a lot of events, but they tend to be industry specific. So for us, there's events like Optra Fair and 100% Optical, which are huge industry relevant events, and for us, attending that it probably falls into that employer brand piece again. It's all about Specsavers attend, and we have a huge stand, and we actually deliver CET training points, so optometrists can attend and actually sit with Specsavers and learn and get educational points that they need to get for their profession. So we used to do a lot of more traditional recruitment style events, but with optics being such a closed market, you'll tend to find people do not go to recruitment-led events. It's such a closed market that if they were to go, they'll probably see their boss, people they work with. So the only way to actually engage them through an event form is to give them a reason to go that's a secure reason, something they can gain from it. So we moved into more delivering events about training rather than recruitment-style events.
I think that's quite a cultural thing in the UK in particular, perhaps because of the competitive nature of the recruitment market. But I know in the Specsavers European team that they're a little bit different, and they do have a great deal of success with the events that the Green Club hold, where they've got a lot of attendees who are Specsavers employees, but they also do have a lot of attendees who are not Specsavers employees as well. So I know Casper and the team there do a good job. But Casper, I think we'll get you on one day to talk about that, and talk about the good work that you guys do from an events perspective. But it's quite interesting, the cultural difference between it. We've got another question from Alf Mayaki. Thanks for joining us, Alf. I hope your fee negotiation went well. Alf is asking, you mentioned time to hire as a metric you use to measure effectiveness. What on average is your time to hire, and how has this improved over the last few years? That's a very good question, combined with the change in recruitment marketing that we've been talking about, Tom, and the changes in process. Have you seen any difference in time to hire? Has it improved? And actually, is time to hire an important metric for you in the team?
It tends to vary across roles. So the different roles you work on have quite a different time to hire. So optical assistants, which is kind of our more high volume candidates, they can be recruited quite quickly. So from initial conversation, we could be hiring those within a couple of weeks. Optometrists, that tends to be a much more of a slow burn. I think the difference we've seen in time to hire in the last year is that due to the quality of the campaigns we're sending out and the content people are engaging with, when the recruiter starts that process with the candidate, they're already engaged with the brand, and they don't need to sell the opportunity, so to speak. It becomes more of a, okay, you want a job with Specsavers, where can I get you a job? Whereas previously that all of that candidate nurture was done by the recruiter, and that could take, it's different for everyone, but that could be 3 months, 6 months. They take a really long time to really warm to your brand and understand they've got the right opportunities. So I think in the last year I couldn't put a time on it, but we've certainly reduced it from a recruitment perspective, because a lot of that, the difficult conversation and the brand promotion is done before they pick up the phone.
Yeah, you're getting to candidates when they're further along the funnel. You know, going back to the point about, you know, you can speak to, instead of speaking to 1,000 candidates, you can speak to 30, and it's because you know the 30 candidates who are at the right stage in the funnel for your recruiters to have that really good conversation and that really important conversation with them. Lots of questions today. This is great. We've got a question from Anne Chan. Anne, thanks very much for joining and for your question. I love this question. How do you ensure that you're tapping into all those great employee stories from across the business? So, you know, you're a big business, Tom. You employ a lot of people, not only in the UK, but otherwise as well. For the UK, what have you put in place to try and capture those moments, the stuff that's happening, whether it's in the local branch along the road from me in Glasgow, that's my branch just there, or the branches that are close to you in Cornwall?
I think probably the biggest success we've had and that is a real challenge, procuring those stories and procuring that content. I'm sure most marketing teams find is one of the biggest challenges. For us, it's all about the recruiters. So that comes back to that relationship that we have with the recruiters here. We sit right next to them. So all of those fantastic stories, those successes they have with candidates, we hear about them over our shoulders every day. So because we work so close to the recruitment team, we're able to actually hear about the successes and follow up from there. In terms of people that are in stores, we've got our recruiters that have a really good relationship with our store directors as well, because they work so closely together. So we've got a really clear funnel for, if you have success, let us know. And that's how we procure most of our stories. We have quite a few recruiters that are out on the ground as well. So we've got a few regional recruiters. They go into stores each day, and they see those stories and come back to us. So in the last 12 months, that's something we've certainly looked to develop, and we probably had the most success just from briefing the recruiters and getting them closer to the marketing function of the business.
Yeah, and we've spoke about that. Even, you know, the remoteness of the work, because of the number of branches that you've got, the nature of what you do. You know, finding out about everything that's going on is going to be impossible. But if you can encourage a culture of sharing, That's the big thing of the stuff that's actually making a difference to the customer. If you can capture that information and capture the impact that your employees are actually having on them, as well as the good news stories throughout the recruitment process as well. That's, I think, something that we miss, the experience of actually going through a really good recruitment process, and for me, within your domiciliary work, capturing the experience of the people that are going for the taster days, for example, that I think that would also work really, really well. So that's been a brilliant session. We've ran probably a little bit over what I expected to, but I think we've had some amazing content from you, Tom, and I really, really appreciate you taking the time out to do it and to pull it together in so much detail for us. And also we had some brilliant questions from the audience, from those that joined in. I hope that was of value. Everything will get sent out along with the links. Apologies about the sound not working on the YouTube video, but I've sent out the link over the chat so you can take a look at it, but it will also come out in the email as well. Just a reminder, at Candidate.ID, we have worked with Specsavers for 2 years now. We've worked with a number of other clients in multiple different industries. So it's retail and healthcare is one brilliant specialism that it works really well in. But whether it's manufacturing, whether it's technology, banking, etc., we've got a team here who can help you execute this content and get it out there and really look at candidate activity, score it, and highlight the leads to your recruitment team so that they can get to the really good, the really hot, engaged people before the competition do. If you're looking for more information about Candidate.ID and would like a demo with myself or one of the rest of the team, then do get in touch with us. We'll be more than happy to help. That's been a brilliant session. Tom, many thanks again. I'll speak to you very soon. Everyone else, I'm sure, will speak to you very soon as well. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.